US President Donald Trump has cancelled his planned visit to the UK in February. He had been expected to inaugurate the new American embassy in London, but in a tweet early on Friday, he said that's the reason he's not coming. Trump tweeted that he's unhappy that Barack Obama sold off the US embassy building in central London for what he called peanuts, only to build a new one further out for $1.2 billion. Bad deal, he claimed, and no way he'll endorse it by cutting the ribbon to open it. Disappointment with the deal over the new embassy may be the official reason, but the development comes after reports that Trump wanted to delay a UK visit amid concerns about large-scale protests, like this one last February in London. Downing Street hasn't commented on the cancellation of February's visit, but the BBC is reporting that Number 10 is considering options for a state visit later in the year that will include Mr Trump having lunch with the Queen.
How do you feel,
Ecuador has confirmed that WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange has become a citizen of the country. Its foreign minister said she was seeking a dignified solution to his situation with Britain, who earlier refused a request by Ecuador to give him diplomatic status. Assange has been holed up for more than 5 years in the Ecuadorian embassy in London. He was granted asylum there in 2012 to avoid extradition to Sweden over rape allegations. Ecuador said they feared threats to Assange's life coming from third-party states.
A search for survivors continues off China's east coast after a collision between an oil tanker and a Chinese cargo ship. The tanker burst into flames after Saturday's crash. One body's been recovered. The rest of the 32-strong crew, almost all Iranians, are missing. Hoping against hope her son will be found alive, this mother spoke exclusively to Euronews. We're asking for international aid for our children who are probably still in the tanker. Help them. They're human beings who need your help. Now, you, the international community, we're waiting for our dear loved ones. Help us. The wife of an officer on the tanker, this woman wants China to do more. Each one of these days for us is a nightmare without end, she says. Another crew member's wife says, I know they're somewhere safe. We don't think even 1% that something bad has happened to them. But time is passing. Every second is important. The cargo ship's crew was rescued on the night of the collision, the cause of which is unknown. Amid the spilt oil, Chinese authorities say the tanker remains at risk of exploding and sinking.
The French government is threatening to sanction some of the country's top supermarkets after they admitted recall baby food made by Lactalis had still found their way into shops. The admissions deepen a salmonella health scare that began in early December when the government ordered a halt to sales and a global recall of products from a factory in northwest France. Economy Minister Bruno Le Maire laid the blame squarely on Lactalis. The state on the 9th of December stepped in for a company which failed in its actions and which, I re-emphasise, bears the sole responsibility for the quality and safety of the products on sale. This matter is serious. It's led to unacceptable behaviour, which must be punished. Supermarket chain Carrefour said it had sold 434 products at risk of contamination since the December recall, while France's biggest retailer System U said it had sold nearly 1,000 products. Salmonella infections can be life-threatening, particularly for young children.
The French president has called on Europe to redouble its efforts to deal with the migrant crisis. Speaking at the end of his two-day trip to Rome to strengthen Franco-Italian ties, Emmanuel Macron said although the number of people coming from the African continent has dropped, the issue is far from resolved. There is still an extremely large number of people who are trying to cross the Mediterranean, And we must never forget we're talking about men and women, he said. Men and women who continue to die on these routes of necessity through the Sahara and Sahel, or once they're on the high seas, he added. Italy's Prime Minister reiterated that no country in Europe can escape their responsibilities in seeking solutions for the migrant issue.
La seconda è che nessuno in Europa si può sottrarre alla responsabilità di dare un contributo.
Italy and France have also pledged to set up what they call a more systematic and favourable bilateral treaty to reinforce their cooperation on industrial and cultural affairs.
German Chancellor Angela Merkel has said that her Conservative bloc and the Social Democrats still had difficult obstacles to clear before they could agree to enter formal coalition talks. On the final day of exploratory talks, Merkel remained hopeful of agreement. There are still big hurdles in the way that need to be removed, so this will be a hard day. But I am also going in with a huge amount of energy, because we know that the people expect us to find solutions. I will work in this spirit today, and all of the representatives of the CDU will also work with us. A weakened Merkel is pinning her hopes for a fourth term as Chancellor on successful talks with a wary SPD for a rerun of the Grand Coalition. If we enter into such a government, then it's under the condition that this government makes Europe strong. There are huge obstacles that we need to take out of the way, and this is the last day. More than 3 months after the election, some of those who are sceptical about a new grand coalition want new elections to take Europe's largest economy forward. SPD members will vote in Congress to decide whether to enter the talks on the 21st of January.
The Moldovan government has passed a law effectively banning the rebroadcasting of Russian television programs on news, analysis, politics and military issues. The so-called media propaganda law was signed by the parliamentary speaker after the suspension of pro-Russia President Igor Dodon over the issue. Dodon had twice refused to sign the bill into law. The bill was put forward by Moldova's pro-Western government, led by Prime Minister Pavel Filip, and passed by pro-Western lawmakers in Parliament. The President is frequently at odds with Filip and his government, which favours closer ties with the EU and the United States. Earlier, Dodon blocked Filip's nominations for new ministers in a reshuffle. He said the government proposed candidates were incompetent and accused some of being corrupt.
It's being reported that President Trump described Haiti, El Salvador and African countries as shitholes. He's alleged to have made the comment during a meeting with senators at the Oval Office on Thursday, where they were discussing measures to protect migrants as part of a bipartisan immigration deal. According to the Washington Post, in the same meeting, the president asked why the US couldn't attract more immigrants from countries like Norway, whose prime minister had visited him the day before. The White House has made no attempt to deny the report, but a spokesman did say that certain Washington politicians choose to fight for foreign countries, but President Trump will always fight for the American people.
Donald Trump! Shame on you! Congress! Pig said no! Congress!
The news will further infuriate protesters angry at Trump's move to end temporary protected status, or TPS, for immigrants from El Salvador, which could result in 200,000 Salvadorans being deported, including some children who were born in the USA.
Protests to mark the anniversary of Tunisia's 2011 uprising, which saw the overthrow of autocrat ruler Zine El Abidine Ben Ali, are not uncommon in January. But Mark Pierini, a former EU ambassador to Tunisia and a scholar at Carnegie Europe, believes other factors are coming into play this time.
The kind of return of the old guard. Some ministers from the Ben Ali era are back. Corruption investigations or trials have been stopped. So people also have political reasons to worry about. And also you have the municipal elections looming, where, of course, the Islamist party, Ennahda, is in a better shape than the traditional parties. So people also worry about the orientation of the society.
In Europe and elsewhere, there are concerns about Tunisia's stability. The country was seen as the only democratic success story among the Arab Spring nations.
For Europe and for the United States as well, Tunisia is this one single little gem in the Arab revolutions. The only country that has managed to proceed with a constitutional reform, with elections. It has been going this side and this side, but overall it has been rather peaceful over these years. The problem is that to the have-nots, this looks like an endless process, and now people are worried that, as before, the richer will get richer.
So far, the protests have been on a less grander scale than those 9 years ago, but those confrontations also started small before they began escalating.
Uma pausa breve disso, estou back com o Deporte.